Thanks for choosing Starbucks. How are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
Doing alright. What can I get started for ya?
Can I get a 16-ounce iced pumpkin cream chai?
City Grande?
Yes, please.
Iced pumpkin cream chai. Anything else?
That'll be all.
Alright, cool. We'll see you later then.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning and happy Friday. My name is Maddi and I'm so glad to have you here. I just picked up a iced chai with the pumpkin cream cold foam, my current fave. And I was like inspired by my friend Julissa from the Pros and Cons to go on like a little coffee run. But yeah, now that we have that, I'm gonna go home and we'll actually do like a real intro. I am home, I have my chai, and I picked up some potato olays from Taco John's. So I have like a girl dinner, but for lunch. Anyways, if you are new here, then thank you so much for coming to my channel. My name is Maddi and I'm a science fiction and fantasy author. I'm working on my debut novel, This Cruel Fate. I'm also working on a serialized story called Blood Donor that I'm uploading on a bi-weekly basis to Kindle Vella, and I will leave that linked down below. This prior week, I worked really hard on social media, mostly on Instagram. And while I think that is great and I'm really proud of the progress I made there, I did allow my writing time to become a time that was very distracted and disjointed, and I wasn't really getting into a flow state because I would get a message and I would look at it immediately and then I would get distracted and scroll and do whatever else. And I don't think that's bad, right? We only have so many hours in a day in a week, so there are going to be weeks where I'm more social media focused, weeks where I'm more writing focused, what have you. But since I did invest that time and I did kind of allow my writing time to be more distracted and muddy, I wanted to take this week to really take stock of how I'm spending my time and making sure that I'm keeping that writing time sacred and working long enough to reach a flow state. So to accomplish that, I'm going to be writing for a minimum of 2 hours a day, and what I'm counting as writing is anything to do with TCF or Blood Donor. So that is either planning chapters, drafting, rewriting, line editing, anything that is just directly related to furthering either of those stories. And I'm going to be tracking my time and how I'm using it in 30-minute increments in the Forest app, which is my favorite productivity app, since you choose your little tree or plant to plant, you set your time, and you can even say what you are going to do. So I have some for like drafting, rewriting, editing, things like that. And when you're done, you get points to buy more plants and trees. So that's my favorite app to use. So without further ado, let's get writing. I'm starting this on Saturday, and the first 30-minute increment I worked on chapter 3 of TCF. I line edited the final scene in the chapter and worked on Adonis's characterization to start that rewriting process. I got the Hurricane Wars in the mail, which is like the biggest sci-fi fantasy book of the fall I've seen a lot, so I was very excited to get that in the mail. The current book I'm reading is The Picture of Dorian Gray, so I'm starting to read that now, and it's very pretentious, but I'm kind of here for it. And then the other 3 writing sprints went awesome. It was just kind of like riding a bike with getting back into the swing of things and just jumping right into that flow state at the start of that 30-minute sprint. On Sunday, I was slightly unmotivated just due to being tired from work, but I ended up getting into that flow and I wrote an entirely new segment for chapter 5 of TCF. which I just think fits so well and really built up the character dynamics. And I did a lot of work to chapter 5, and I line edited chapter 6. Chapter 6 went through a lot of changes too, and every time I rewrite or rework a scene, it feels just so much more grounded in reality and makes me so excited for people to read it again. On Monday, I started my day off by getting some brunch and coffee and reading in the coffee shop. I felt really rejuvenated and my creative well was full and bursting, and I really like the time limits rather than a word goal or a chapter goal like I have set for myself in the past, because it's okay if I want to spend 2 hours line editing. I still met my goal and I was still productive. By the third 30-minute increment on Monday, again, I was just in love with setting myself a time limit, because I sat staring and thinking at my screen for over 10 minutes, just lost in thought about TCF, and that's okay. I don't have to rush through what I'm writing for the sake of meeting a deadline. And there have been a few scenes that I read where I could tell I was just frantically writing to try and meet a self-imposed chapter or word count deadline. At this point, I'm still on chapter 6, so I've invested a lot of time working on that chapter, but I was still meeting the time limit goals that I set for myself. So this is a way that I found that I'm able to get that sense of accomplishment and completion without really running myself ragged over I need to get a chapter a day done, because I think everybody works in different ways, and for some people a word goal or chapter goal is going to help their productivity and creativity, but for me, I found that setting a time limit and just kind of expanding on what it means to be working, whether it's thinking or drafting, planning, line editing, things like that, just really expanding what it means to be productive and allowing myself to have that productivity however it manifests itself. On Tuesday, I decided to start my day off with planning episode 4 of Blood Donor, since I still hadn't finished chapter 6 by this time, and I was starting to get like a little bit in my head about it, which is why I kind of like to have this second project so I can distract myself but still be productive and still kind of work on my writing craft instead of just scrolling mindlessly through Instagram or Facebook or whatever. It's just still a creative use of my time. And then I spent a half hour just doing nothing and staring at Scrivener, but that's okay, because really what this exercise was about was setting the expectation of working rather than, as soon as I'm bored, just immediately going to my phone and allowing my brain to be distracted, because there are so many benefits to being bored and letting your mind wander. That's why you always have those moments of genius when you're in the shower or you're washing dishes or just doing something very mundane, where your brain isn't actively focusing on a task and you're just kind of letting yourself exist in the moment, and your brain kind of works and resets and wanders wherever it wants to. And I have been really hindering that process by always going to Instagram as soon as I hit a snag or I write 3 lines, and to reward myself, I get back on social media. And I really want to work on building up a habit of when I sit down to write, however long I'm going to set aside, I'm just going to be existing in this moment. If I'm not writing, I'm thinking, and giving my brain that time to reset, to wander and find those little moments of genius, those aha moments that really enrich your creative self. And And then on Wednesday, I actually ended up taking a mental health day. Wednesdays are probably my hardest days of the week since it's just starting the new week at work, and then oftentimes I close and then open the next day. So really, those are just kind of the days where I'm just most tired, and then when I get home, I'm just trying to run to bed so I can wake up and be at work in like a few hours is what it feels like. So yeah, that's another expectation is I like doing the little challenges, and really taking stock of where I'm at in terms of writing, but I think it's also important to recognize that mental health is important too. And if there is a day that is really just going to set me behind or drain my creative well, or, push myself past the point of like challenging myself, it's not a good idea. And I just have to listen to my body and take that day or night and just get to it the next day. And I was so glad that I just let myself have Wednesday, because when Thursday rolled around, I was feeling so much better and much more rested. So I actually ended up doing the entire 2 hours like in one sitting, and that felt really nice. And I know that I should work on blood donor, but I was just feeling so excited to get back into TCF. I did have like a rough patch with it and I took like a break, but since then I've just been feeling so inspired and in love with the story and remembering why I'm writing it. So I just let myself work on what I wanted to work on and invested a lot of time into TCF. I am almost 30,000 words into this like 6th draft, which is so exciting, and I just feel like it's all starting to come together, and the story that I envisioned when I first started plotting and drafting is just really taking shape and form. And then Friday was Friday the 13th, so I got the squid from Coraline, and it was a lot of fun just to hang out and get a tattoo. And I got home, worked on TCF. All I had written down for my notes was that I had good flow and I love my story, which we love to see. Hello, I'm back and it is now a Saturday morning, and I'm going to write for 2 hours today before work to make up for taking off Wednesday. I think this is one of the most successful challenges I've set for myself. Normally, when I set word count challenges or productivity challenge that can be measured in things like how much I'm putting on the paper or how many chapters I'm getting through, I always fail those. Without fail, I set this like incredibly high goal and then something happens or I run into a block and I don't give myself time to just reflect on the challenge and have that time to sit and think about it and then keep going. Or as soon as I run into a block or something that does require just to take a pause and think about things, I just go right to my phone and I jump on social media, which does not offer any answers. So by limiting this challenge to just spending time existing in my story was so much better for my productivity, as well as holding me in a place where I'm constantly feeling good and I wasn't burning myself out. Because if I needed to take the half hour just to think about this chapter or section that I'm working on, I was still meeting the goal and I was still being productive. And it really helped to not just immediately jump to my phone, because honestly, there were some times this week where it did take, I just had to sit there for like 20 minutes and just think things through. And the great thing was is I would think it through and I would get the answer that I needed. And I could really tell on my days off, I wrote beyond the half hour because I was still like such in this good state of flow. So I'm really happy with this, and I'm definitely going to keep the 2-hour minimum for days off. On days I'm working, there were a few times where it got pretty tricky, just trying to find a balance between, you know, staying rested and also being productive. So I might go to like 1 hour for right now, just because it is going to start being a lot busier at my job just with holidays coming up, and then after that it normally slows down. So it's all just kind of up in the air, but I do want to just be really mindful of how I am like protecting my writing time and making sure that it stays in this nice little bubble of time that is just for writing, and I'm not going to be hopping on social media, responding to messages, or just scrolling through, because as soon as I, you know, reply to one person, I swipe out of the messages and then there's the entire feed, and it's just very distracting and very easy to kind of lose yourself in everything going on. And I don't think it's always healthy I spend way too much time on social media, and I know that, and I know that it's not entirely healthy. And as much as I love it, because I do think it has been an incredible space to make friends, make connections, and build my community, there are times where I just find myself mindlessly scrolling, and especially when I'm having time set aside for writing to work, and it just kind of kills that creative flow. Thank you so much for watching this week's video. I really hope that you enjoyed it, and please tell me down below how you protect your writing time, or things that you find are hard to overcome as you build up that like sacred space. If you enjoyed, please consider liking or subscribing to my channel. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and let's see what else is going on. I will have links down for blood donor, which I did not work on as much as I had planned, but I'm just like so feeling TCF right now, and that is the priority. That's number one. Blood donor is just for keeping it fun and lighthearted. Anyways, I will have links for that down below. I'm also setting up a little Patreon page, just like 2 really small tiers for right now, but my plan is to start in January a book club for like from a writer's POV to help other writers, so we can kind of dissect and discuss what makes different stories work, what makes them doesn't work, how the marketing of them kind of helps their publication success, and whether or not these titles that are really popular or really unpopular are good or bad objectively. So yeah, that's my plans for starting that in the new year, but I will have links for that down below as well, and I will see you in 2 weeks. Thank you so much. Bye.